Expect challenges and struggles in your journey. If you want to be a follower of Christ, expect struggles and suffering and pain. This is a fact of discipleship. And I have an example I want to share with you, which is a story of a salmon ladder. Could I have the next slide, please? Nature has a lot of lessons to tell, and one of them is from our friend, the salmon. My parents moved from Toronto to British Columbia a few years ago, and this summer I saw something very interesting. I went to a place called Capilano River, which is in West Vancouver, and there's a dam upriver, a dam for electricity, and because of that, they had to reroute some water for the salmon. For the salmon to breathe, they have to go upriver, as you very well know. And so what they did was called a salmon ladder. Maybe can I see the next slide, please? What it is it's artificial, and there are stages where the salmon have to jump. And if you go there and watch it live, the current is very strong. And you could see these salmon really struggling. And they get to the next stage, and they get to the next stage. And in one section, there's like an aquarium. It's cut out with glass, so you could be behind the glass, and you could see a whole bunch of fish gathered together. I love aquariums, so it's very fascinating. Watching all these salmon. They're waiting there, getting a little bit of respite before it makes an attempt, doesn't quite make it, makes another attempt, doesn't quite make it, and one finally makes it over to the other stage. And you see little kids when they're watching this, they go, yay! When the little fish makes it, or big fish makes it up to the next stage. Once in a while, it gets caught in the strong current and it drops back another stage after all that work. You know? It's kind of painful to watch. After all those attempts, they made it up and then they lose ground. And I thought, what a wonderful parable of our lives. You know, a lot of struggling to get ahead, and we fall back, a lot of setbacks, disappointments, failures. But there was also another lesson in the midst of this. When I asked my friend, a priest friend, why don't they just build an easy river up, an easy current up to the top? Why do they have to make it so hard? And apparently, if they do make a current, like a soft current that goes up very gently up the river, guess what? The salmon will not take that route. They will not take that route. They'll just go around and try to figure out what's going on, and they'll just stay in the pool and not go upriver, and they will die there. You know, they'll be just there, 빌비래, you know, Korean, 빌비래, like this, and not go up. The moral of the story, you know, you could see where it is. We need challenge. We need struggles. 힘든 일이 없으면 너무나 재미없어서 못 견디려요. 너무나 재미없어서 못 견디려, 못 살아요. 뭐 힘든 일이 있어야 돼요, 우리는, 인간은. It's human. And the other thing that I found really wonderful was once you get to the next stage, you're allowed to stay there for a little while. Get some energy, you know, store up your energy, and then make the attempt for the next stage, right? That's another lesson. And the other big thing is the salmon are not in control. You know, they do their best. They're not in control of the water, and the current is very strong. It's chaotic, it's strong, it's chaotic. They're not in full control, but somehow they manage, and some do go up the river. You know, brothers and sisters, as long as we live, we will not have the full answer why we suffer. Why? You know, it's all right to ask the question why, but we might not get the full answer. But as Father Jacques Philippe says, a French priest, the important thing is how. It's not the why of suffering, but the how of suffering. How do we deal with this? It will always remain a mystery to us. Whatever our pains in life are, our suffering and struggles, at the end of the day, there is no complete answer to the questions why. But what's important is our relationship with God, of Jesus Christ, who will teach us how to deal with it, how to live it, and even how to flourish, how to succeed in the midst of all this. You know, if there's no food, people who have no food struggle and struggle to get food for their stomach, and because they believe that will make them happy. And the first meal they have and the second meal they'll be just so happy. They'll just stuff themselves. But after months go by, years go by, food is enough to make people happy. They find that they have to struggle for more. They're hungry for more things. This is human nature. We are still hungry until we are satisfied. Nobody invites struggles in their lives, but when it comes, we embrace it. But it's hard to do. We are human. Look at Peter. I love Peter the apostle, Peter the fisherman, because he's so human. Some of you have names Peter, I know. He's a wonderful saint. And when Jesus started rumbling or giving clues that he's heading towards Jerusalem to suffer, he didn't like the idea. And he said, God forbid it. God forbid it. This must never happen to you, he says to Jesus. And how does Peter respond? He says, get behind me, Satan. He says, Satan as an obstacle, get behind me. You're being an obstacle to me. You're a stumbling block to me. For you are setting your mind not on divine things, not on things of God, but on human things. And then Jesus turned to all his disciples, therefore to you and me, and asked the question, if any of you want to be my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. This is a mystery, guys, a mystery. The idea of denying yourself and forgetting yourself and dying to yourself, it's completely different from the message our society gives us. It's always drive a Lexus and you'll be happy, get a great career, you'll be happy, get more and more, live life to the fullest, then you'll be happy. Jesus is telling us another message, and it's really hard for us to take because we all grew up with a very different message. Even Peter abhorred, hated the idea, repulsed by the idea that his master should undergo suffering. And later on, he himself ran away when he had to face his trial. Instead of denying himself, he denied his own master when he was tried. See, just like he's like you and me. His whole nature, his whole body ran away, cringed from suffering. It's so human. We coil away from pain. Any hint of the cross, we're like a snake coiling away from the fire. That's what that's like, or from vinegar. But hurt, the hurts in life, pains and sacrifices are necessary for good, for our good and for the good of the world. John chapter 12, verse 24, we hear, very truly I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. That's the first message I want to give to all of us. Think of the salmon, going upriver. Think of a single grain that dies. All these stories that nature teaches us. A struggle is necessary, denial is necessary, sacrifice is necessary. Whereas that old Bowflex exercise commercial goes, no pain, no gain. That's spiritually true, emotionally true. Second point, student's entrance. The message is, do not fear to enter. Do not fear to enter the door of discipleship, the door of a student. For my last art class in high school, in my OAC year, for my last project in art, I did a painting, a watercolor with wax crayon and ink, 3 media. And it has a story to tell. I have it in my room right now. It was formerly hanging in my mother's room. When my high school outgrew a place called Clover Hill, which is on Bay Street right now, it outgrew it. They decided to move out to way out to the boonies, way out beyond the city back then in the 1900s, early 1900s. It was all the way at Bathurst and St. Clair, out in the boonies. The city has grown since then, no? And what they did was they preserved the entrance of the school, the archway, which used to be the front of the school. So it's like standing by itself, disembodied on the lawn, more like a symbolic entrance. To keep the old tradition. This is the old entrance of the old school. And something about that caught me, and I decided to paint it. This is not a painting, by the way. This is a photo from the internet. Okay, I'm not that good. They decided to preserve this, and I was just caught by the simple architectural beauty, and above all, the sentimental memories attached to this tradition. And in some ways, the watercolor I did of the scene was prophetic for my own journey, my vocational journey, even my journey as an immigrant son. You know, we moved many times from South Korea to Montreal, moved around a few places in Montreal, then Toronto, a few places around Toronto, then Brantford, Ontario, then Barrie, Ontario, then British Columbia. And if we moved any more, we'd be back in Korea, okay? We moved a lot. And then when my parents moved, after I graduated from high school, they moved right away to Brantford. And it was in that time where I was finishing up high school and I was painting this. You know, I never finished it for school. I don't know what the reason was. I was too distracted, like a lot of teenagers, by many things, this and that thing, by the prom or whatever, doing other activities, too distracted by sports. I don't know what it was. Or it was procrastination, you know, like a lot of you maybe. I was a perfectionist, but far from being perfect, which is very painful. So you don't want to hand things in because you just want to get it absolutely perfect, and perfection never arrives, so you never finish it. Can you relate to that? I'm a perfectionist, but far from being perfect. And that creates a lot of suffering, a lot of conflict within. And for whatever reason, that might be part of it, I never finished it for my art class, and I never got it marked that year. So I graduated, went into university, and in university, something told me to finish it. So I'm not going to get marked for it, but just for the principle of it, I finished it, I completed it, and you know, I was never fully happy with it. I was not completely happy with it because technically, you know, the background with the wax crayon is supposed to repel the watercolor, but it just looked really, I don't know, crappy. It looked sloppy, and I didn't like it. I gave it to my mom, and she framed it and hung it on the wall, the bedroom wall. She never played the art critic and said, 이거 틀렸다, 저거 틀렸다. She never said that. She was happy. You know why? She was not looking for perfection. She was simply happy that I put in my best effort and completed what I had started. Now I can move on to the next student entrance. I can move on to the next student entrance. And my life has been a life of going from one student entrance to another, you know, each stage, high school, university, post-university, in my case, a seminary to be a priest, and, you know, and then different assignments. I'm always entering new entrances, new gateways, starting again. And you would think that a person like me or anybody like me would feel homeless, but I never felt homeless because of love. Home is where the heart is. Home is where the heart is. And where you feel the will of God, then you do not feel homeless. You begin again, not afraid to enter the student entrance, learn new lessons in life, make mistakes. Don't worry about being perfect, but just go ahead, shoot ahead, get things done best you can at the level that you're in. Like the salmon, stage by step. Don't worry about backsliding, try again. This is the message that I want to tell you. No one expects a student to be perfect, only that he or she has the courage to pass through the entrance and begin the journey and finish it the best that person can. The Lord, I trust, will be happy enough with that. Next lesson. Third is strength and weakness. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 7 to 10, we hear these wonderful words. You've heard this before, I'm sure, in Scripture. Therefore, to keep me from being too elated, a thorn was given me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me, to keep me from being too elated. 3 times I appealed to the Lord about this, that would leave me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for power is made perfect in weakness. So, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Therefore, I'm content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities for the sake of Christ. For whenever I am weak, then I am strong. When I am weak, then I am strong. Jacques Philippe, I mentioned earlier, in a book called Interior Freedom, Jacques Philippe, his father Jacques Philippe said that, it's easy, our human freedom finds it easy to accept things that are pleasant, things that are easy. But when it's unpleasant, well, it's really hard to trust and accept it. But it's precisely when it's difficult and unpleasant and we accept it that we grow and that we truly be free. It's a mystery, it's a paradox how that could be. Yeah? He says, when we say yes to our personal limitations and our weaknesses, even our powerlessness, that life gives us and imposes upon us, well then, that's when things happen. When things are not in full control, when the situation is not in full control, that's when we find the power of Christ, the strength of Christ. My brothers and sisters, just want to simply give a message, just wrapping up. It's a very short message. I want you to reflect on this even more. Do not give up, when the first challenge comes your way. Do not give up. If you fall 7 times, just get up 8 times. Huh? Father Matthias used to like to say to me anyway, just like Salmon, keep going. 끝까지 가세요. 끝까지 가세요. 7번 넘어지면 8번 서 일어나세요. 사물 같이 희망을 잊지 말고 끝까지 가세요. 끝까지. Just keep going. Take up the Lord's cross. Trust in God. Take up your cross and follow Him. Just trust.